Ray Ives, Pen of an Underdog. Thanks for joining. So, still here at part 6, organizational shift. Things were getting pretty bad, to say the least. I was beginning to experience corporate burnout at a level I've never experienced before. And let me explain the corporate burnout. Corporate burnout is when those feelings of forced inadequacy, lack of transparency, not feeling valued, pressure start to overflow in personal life. It's almost like going to sleep thinking about it. While you're sleeping, dreaming about it. Like having these boardroom dreams of pain and discomfort and agony and lies. And it was just, corporate burnout was really starting to set in. It was tough. I was in a tough spot here. It was very tough. So here's the organizational shift. The board of directors just finished an unsuccessful round of investors looking to buy the company. Nobody was buying it. Nobody wanted to buy it. We are now having another CEO put in, Sean Harlem. He was coming in. He was going to have his own ideas. I started working with Sean, got to know him, good guy. I think there was a misalignment because he came from industry that wasn't relevant to our sector. I think he was essentially a friend of a friend. I think he may have come from aviation. And so built good rapport with Sean and was on a lot of calls with him. And one day out of the blue, he called me. I think he knew there was going to be a mass exodus on the horizon. Too many changes were happening. I wasn't the only one experiencing this burnout. It was happening. So he basically called me. He started out, Ray, we've been working together for a short amount of time. He's like, but I feel like I really got to know you. And you're going to hear a lot of things about the company, about the hierarchy. I can't speak to it right now, but I would like to offer you a retention bonus. And I was like, a retention bonus? I was like, wow. I was like, he really must value me. So all I had to do was basically stay, not resign, and they were going to hand me over a big sum of money and the retention bonus. I was like, this is great. Okay. And little did I know that honey attracts bears and bee stings are painful, right? Like death by paper cuts. And the corporate burnout was just continually to press on. I always earned a good day's work, but my personal values were really starting to be affected here because the corporate initiatives were set, the plan was set, and this was all done prior to a pandemic, prior to low service levels, poor quality, SKU rationalization. Clients, they weren't getting product. And if they were getting product, the quality was bad. And nobody cared about it. And I was just basically there trying to smooth over client relationships. And I have to be honest, it was getting pretty frustrating. And so I remember having a conversation with Sean, and I was like, okay, Sean, that's great. Retention bonus, awesome. I said, but here's what I'd also like. Meet me halfway. Amor is leaving. That's the other one. That's the other, organizational shift is there's a new CEO. My boss is officially leaving. He's gone. And I was like, okay, make me the senior vice president. And this was a shot that I had to take between the chaos and capitalizing on some lasting wins. That was what I was up against, and it was difficult. So he basically said he would consider the idea. Now I have a new boss. Her name is Biddy. She was from Canada and very smart woman. Like she knew exactly what she was doing. And she was coming into play here in a very tough time. Amor was leaving. It was a good opportunity for him. We have a new CEO, and now we needed a president. And so at the time, Biddy was president of Canadian operations. And she was the ultimate politician. She had a poker face like no other. And She looked like she was like a mix between like Chicken Little and Michelle Pfeiffer. And she wore like these big glasses that were like too big for her face. And her demeanor was soft, but under her lamb's wool, she was a bloodthirsty alpha wolf. Like her presentation was kind and caring, and she came off as humble. She laughed at her mistakes, but she knew how to get her way. Regardless if that meant blood or death, she was getting her way. She was with the company for a long time. So here we are. I'm starting to look back, burned out, and the company was trying to build a foundation growth, and it just wasn't happening. It was like they were trying to build it, a house on sand, not rock. And every CEO, Dudley Johnson, had a project. The next, Sean Harlem, he was coming in, had a new project. And little did I know there's probably going to be another CEO that have a different project. And I had multiple bosses. This was my second boss. And I started working with Biddy, and she was inquisitive, understanding. She wanted to improve culture and get this. She wanted to get the sales team and me support. And so she started hanging out these major assignments. She's like, okay, we need a SWOT analysis. She's like, don't hold anything back. She's like, tell me our weaknesses, tell me our opportunities. And like her and I would start having weekly meetings, and it was good. Like I was literally having, for the first time, transparent conversations. I would do these huge summaries for Biddy, outlining everything, every piece of the business. And I also brought it up to her, I'm more left. I have a lot of people reporting to me. I have a lot of business. Will you just consider making me the senior vice president, whatever that was, or even vice president? And so we started having these conversations, and it felt good. And I also started to think, there is no way I can be here regardless of what happens, this company is for sale. It's not going to be around, or it's going to look completely different. It's going to have a facelift. It's going to be chopped off and sold off into pieces. And so I started asking myself, I started doing some soul searching, right? And here I was, it was complete exploitation, my heart and soul. And I was starting to feel like, almost like just like a corporate slave. And my big bad owner was a Swiss giant, traded on the Irish exchange. It was uncomfortable. The ultimate storm, the ultimate destruction, very difficult. I'm gaining weight. I'm stressed. Trying to manage my personal life, trying to manage my professional life. And what I'm seeing around me is major furloughs. Like people are getting furloughed. There was plant closures, expense cutting. And again, I wanted to give Biddy the benefit of the doubt, but I just knew where things were going. And I was getting plugged into like a standardized corporate setting with isolated departments and conflicting metrics. And I was systematically forced to remain silent. So all these things were happening, and I would come across conflicting metrics. And I was like, well, your bonus is based on this. Our bonus is based on quite the opposite. How is this ever going to work? Things just continued to get bad, and I made a stand. I was like, okay, I came over to be a change agent, and I turned my silence into assertive logic. That's how I looked at it. I said, I'm going to be assertive in a logical way. I'm not going to be combative. I'm not going to focus on the negativity, but let's have real conversations. And to the point, I was on big calls, and we were talking about having another price increase. And I was saying like, okay, look, bad idea right now. The timing's off. None of our competitors are doing price increases, but if we do them, we just don't go to our customers. And I remember being on a call with the global CFO, and I was explaining that we can't, or the way the customer is going to receive any potential price increases, we needed the commodity charts. We needed to explain in detail what was driving these increases. And we couldn't be manipulative about it. We couldn't just use charts out of context to show, like, it was real time, real world examples of expenses and why we were having a price increase. It really just couldn't be, this is an opportunity to grab profit. So too many things. And the company culture was just non-existent. It didn't exist. And, I remember just writing to Biddy, like my recommendations of what we can do. I wanted to be overly transparent. And so here we are. I created this well-tuned, fully automated sales process that was happening, and it was working for me. I had Anne basically running her account, seasoned pro. Things were going very smoothly. Masha, the new director, was jumping in, and this allowed me to really free up and start looking at this strategically. So, don't want to bore you. I'm going to end it there only because I'm looking forward to part 7. Stay tuned. If I'm boring you, it's about to get exciting. Ray Ives, Dependent of an Underdog. Hit subscribe. Let's stay connected.